Alright, so for the next step on this, I'm going to work on the audio block area right here. And what I have to do there is get rid of the old wire, which the reason why it's not removed yet is, one, you want to make sure you document where all this goes. So this one comes off over, let's see, he starts on this block, comes around, he goes to the very first row, then he does the thing, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then he's going to exit this row right here. Then he's going to go back around, and he's going to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And then when he comes down for the final time, he's going to come down here. He's going to make a little bit of a Louis. He's going to cross the first wire, probably as close to a 90-degree angle as you can get, because you really don't want any crosstalk in that area. So those signals will cancel each other out as long as you have a certain angle. And then it's going to come down and finish here on the yellow one. So it's going from red here to yellow here. The tweeter wire, he comes, here's the tweeter wire, what's left of it. I left those intact. Tweeter wire is going to come right out of here. He's going to start immediately doing the thing. And then he's going to finish. He's going to come off of there. And he's going to go around to here. And notice how these tweeter wires, both of them run across the top of this layer of tape. The last one that I did. So I'll start off, we're just going to pull this until we get to that layer of tape. Alright, so there's a strip of tape. Oh, also you have to get rid of this layer of silicone. Let's see if I can get that started and I'll show you that. You can just get this silicone started off. Just gonna work it. It'll peel off. Magnepan, I believe in the kit, if you buy a kit from them, they give you a brand new block. I do believe. Don't quote me on that because you want to speak to Magnepan directly. But I thought I saw some videos of some people that had ordered the rewire kit, and that they had a new block. But this silicone will come off. It just takes some work. Like this, I mean, you're doing the work for that. This is nothing, right? Just jam my pick under there a few times and it'll give up. Alright, so there. Nice big chunk. That's what I like. And you can kind of roll it a little bit with your fingers too. And just give it a pull. Okay. And here's my green wire, what was left of it. The aluminum part. Now I got a nice clean block here. Scrub a little bit more with my finger. You can just kind of pick at it too. Do this. this. It'll come loose. All right. That's that one. I'll pick this one too. Just jam up underneath it there. Like that. This one here is pretty good. Just like that. This direction too. Alrighty. Making good progress here. Okay. So now there's a layer of tape here. If I can get a hold of it. I was able to on the other side, so let's see if I can. He's soldered on there pretty good. Let's try and lift from this side. Okay. Alright, so now the tape's coming loose. Peel this tape back. Alright. There's that one. And now I've got that close off. There we go. Alright. Let me break off. I'll get my soldering iron and we'll clean up these posts and get ready for the next step. Got one more piece of silicone that needs to come off before I can begin the next step. I missed this the first time. Get him off there. There we go. Get stuck to that wire, which I need to get off anyway. All right, so I've got my higher heat iron out because these pads are pretty big. I'm gonna hit him with a little bit. There you go. Here it comes. Right. There's our wires. Rid of the silicone. I'm just gonna. A little bit of silicone residue, I think. Like I said, you want to. I got a little bit of extra solder too. I'm gonna hit this and try and smooth him out a little bit. There we go. He looks a lot better. I'll hit this guy too. What do we got going there? A little bit of silicone maybe. You're really percolating. All right, so now that I've flooded these pads with some solder, it's kind of helped to boil off the rest of this silicone that's on here. And then I'm using my higher wattage old solder. All right, he's pretty nice and clean. The only thing these little rivets collect that silicone. You don't really want any contaminants in there if you can help it. Maybe one more from this side. Whew. I'm gonna flood it with some of this newer solder. There we go. We'll do the same thing over here. All right, guys, I went ahead and cleaned these pads a little bit more. Added a little bit more solder to it. And the reason, let me will become apparent when I show you the next step of what I'm doing. But I really want these to be as smooth as I can get them. This one is really fighting me. The rivet side there had just it's got some contaminant on it. It's probably the silicone. Didn't want to flow into that area, no matter how much I seem to clean it. But the reason why they need to be flat is because I'm doing something a little different. Instead of using the Magnepan wire system, I've gone with this. And I'll tell you why. It's conductive copper tape. And I'll shoot you some. I've got some video of the of this running with this foil tape, and the sound is amazing. And one of the reasons why I decided to go with this, I watched several videos of restorations of LRS speakers, you know, and they're using Magnepan from the factory was using an aluminum foil tape, and what they're doing, but their tape has no adhesive. So what they're doing is they're spraying the entire panel with adhesive, and then they have that jig, and that jig comes down, and that allows them to feed it on. Or just shoot, I think I saw her, she just taps it like that to get it to stick, and then she has a special tool that she runs up to the ends and folds it really nicely on the ends. Now, with my system and this tape, you can't make the really nice turns, because the reason is if you lay this out and try and do the exact same thing that they do at the factory, you're going to end up with an adhesive side where you don't want it. And it would become clear to you if you tried to do it. And I tried to do it as well. And I can make those really nice folded circles like she does on the video, but the problem is there's adhesive that's sticking out on the one side. It's also incredibly difficult to make those bends as you're making the run. So just a few things, a few hurdles that I encountered doing my first one. I don't know how much of this I'm going to actually film, but I will show you a couple of runs. And the way I'm addressing the turns is I'm just running a straight piece, and then I'm clipping it at the end, and then I have some wider, and depending on whether it's a tweeter or a mid-range, I fill in the gap that's left by me trimming it off. So in the case of the thin wire, where you come up, you know, like this, and you get to that end, you've got basically the width of that magnet that you've got to fill so that you have a complete circuit. Now this tape has conductive adhesive on it, so you can overlap pieces and have a connection. And like I said, it does works very well. So this is the thicker stuff that I have that, you know, will fill that gap in between. And I only use a small piece at the end, you know, maybe a 1/2 of an inch, and I just put it on the end right there, and then that gives you lots of connection at the end. Just because I did run into an issue in testing where and this was when I originally tried the loop connectors. And my problem was, like I was saying, you try to make that turn, and sometimes it would fold in the wrong position. You try and straighten it out, but you end up with a real booger on the end instead of a nice clean connection. And what happened in testing was I was getting intermittent connections where those turns were, and I could hold it down like that, and it would pick up again. So I was like, okay, well, that's obviously not going to work like that. So that's when I came up with the let's just cut it square on the ends and then just add these little pieces to finalize the connection for that turn. And that seems to work really well. I've had no cutouts whatsoever since I tried that style. Again, this is an experiment. I'm not saying this is what you should do. This is strictly a prototype. One of my concerns was, what's the longevity of this adhesive? I have no idea. How is it going to perform in a vibration environment? How long will it last? The only thing I can tell you is that presently I have about 6 hours of play on this first Magnepan that I redid this way, and I've not had a single issue out of it. But yeah, so like I said, it's an experiment. A roll of tape, Amazon, $8. So you're not going to be out a lot. I mean, if you did all this and it didn't work and you hated it, I don't know what the removal technique is for the tape yet. I would assume that you could just layer on acetone just like the other, like the other wire, and that this would just peel off. Haven't confirmed that, so do it at your own risk. If you destroy your Mylar, it is what it is. But this is what I'm doing. Like I said, this is a prototype for me. I've been very extremely pleased with the other one. But yeah, that's what I'm doing, and I'll demonstrate here in a bit just how the process goes. Basically, I'm just taping it to the block right here. Later on, I will apply my solder iron to it, and that will help bond the copper foil. It's probably not even technically necessary because it does work just as it is. If you just left it like that, you'd probably be fine. I don't know for sure, but that's be my guess. It's a little bit of a challenge to line up with your first row. Magnepan did it by making a loop like this, and that would help them get that angle they need to come out of the block. And they did the same thing on this side. With the tape, it's a little bit different, but effectively that's how it works. I'm going to put it back over here, and then I'm just going to start working down so that you can see how this kind of goes. There's no, like I said, this method, there's no spray adhesives. I'm not applying any additional adhesive other than what is on the tape. And my thoughts on that are the adhesive layer is going to have some weight to it, right? You're effectively putting a bottle of weight on the Mylar, and then, or spray, whatever you want to do. It's going to be the same by volume. So then you're going to lay down your wires, and then you're going to apply another layer of adhesive on top of that. So this Mylar would be extremely heavy compared to this method. The real question is the longevity of this. Like I said, to date, I've not had much of a problem. But I only have about, I don't know, maybe 6 hours of playtime on my test model over here. But I'm going to quit talking, and I'm probably going to fast forward through this just to give you an idea. So Magnepan, they have a jig for doing this. And they put the foil in the jig and they lay it down on top of the adhesive, and then they press it down. This does away with a lot of that. I try to do really long strips, because that way there's less worry when you're trying to keep it in a straight line. Just kind of let it self-align, and I just press down over. Now you don't want to press very hard, because it'll make puckers in the foil tape, because it's flexible. And I'm just going to get down here to the end. And one thing you do get a little bit of a problem with is the foil kind of twists. So it's, when you're visualizing, it's kind of hard to align because it gets that twist in the middle. And again, you just want to get it as close as you can to the center. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even the magnets that Magnepan put in they're not perfect. So now that I'm at the end, I'm going to cut it right here. And then I'm just going to lay it down. And then I'm going to go back the opposite direction. Now, one thing you've got here is since I'm cutting it at each end, you've got to, when I come back, I have to remember, you know, which direction is which. And then apply the thicker tape on those ends. This one, the turn is a little different. This has tape on that end. So we're gonna start him just about here. First I start off with this kind of a short strip, because this part right here is kind of key to getting a good result by the time you get to the back, the end. It's one of those things where a little error there is a big error down there, so you can correct it a little bit as you're working it. The other disadvantage that I have is I have astigmatism, so I can't even hardly see a straight line. So one thing I did do before I started this test was to see what the resistance was in a 2-inch piece of original wire and compare it to this tape, because my concern was I might change the impedance values, you know, by increasing or reducing the resistance. And surprisingly, this had the same R value over a given length, which was a pleasant surprise. I did not think that would be the case. Again, I'm trying not to touch the adhesive side at all. I don't want any oils from my skin affecting the adhesion. Now, if you try and pull this off initially, it comes up pretty easily. But after it has sat, at least a full 24 hours, the adhesion improves. Like I said, I have 6 hours of play on this other one. I have not had any problem with lifting or anything like that. Not to say that it won't, but to date, it has not. And I think the good news is that this is not an expensive endeavor, only time. Yeah, you don't want to fuss with it too much once you've laid it down. Like I said, you'll start getting puckers and wrinkles if you're dabbing at it. And if you put any kind of a crinkle finish in it, it will increase the resistance some. I think that's how Magnepan makes, I think it's their ribbon tweeters, where they basically make it like an accordion. They have a special tool for doing it. I'm not sure the technical what's and whys of why they do it, but I'm not doing this as a time saver. I don't think there's any real way you're gonna save any time. It's just an arduous process. I'm doing this because, as I said, it's my opinion that that added weight on the Mylar from the adhesives. The other thing is, you can be fairly certain that whoever made the tape did their homework on what sort of adhesive is going to work with their copper foil. This is one aggravation you run into, though. The coiling of the leader. And what have I done? Alright, I'm just going to cut this off because it's annoying me. Now, here we go. Alright, for another one. I'm going to clean out some of this here before I move on. I like to keep my work environment clean, guys. It's confusing otherwise when you've got a lot of stuff laying around. Alright. Snip this guy. And back to this. Good news is, looks like 3 more passes. if you screw up somewhere along the way and it gets all bundled up or something and it tears, maybe you pulled it a little too hard, with the conductive foil tape, the adhesive will allow a current to pass through. So you can actually splice in another section. I wouldn't add too many splices. Again, you might change the resistance value. So I'm just lightly touching this. It'll probably settle down over time anyway, just from gravity and stick. But I like to give it a little bit of a boost, because when I start pulling on this here, I don't want it popping up and potentially tearing. And I'm using all the lessons that I learned from doing the first one, which I did not film because I wanted to give you I wanted to be able to run it and test it for a while, you know, before I showed this. That's how you do it. When I get done, I take a nice soft cloth and I just glaze over it. Now, here's the thing. Don't strip off your Mylar and then leave your panel laying flat like this for a week, because what's going to happen? There's going to be dust. There's going to be microparticles, and they're going to get underneath of your foil tape. And that could cause an adhesion issue. So with this is basically fresh out of acetone. So it's very clean. Okay. Yeah. So this one is the return. So we're going to put him, he goes here. So we're going to go like that. Get you down and over this. Making the turn is a little tricky. this. All right. And that's it for this tape. Until we do the base mid-range section. But now I'm going to show the method for connecting these. So I've got the slightly wider. If you lay it on top, you can see it'll cover and hook both of the connectors. And I cut it about, I don't know, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I'm just making a pad. And one of the hardest things about doing this is getting the copper separated from the tape. So it's a little bitty tiny piece, right? Let me just make sure that the camera's going to get it. All right, let me zoom in. Okay. Sorry. I am not a professional videographer. All right. So I'm just going to center this in between these. So that gives it a good, 1/2 to 1/4 of an inch of connection on both sides. Now they do make even wider tape, and I have used this as well. This is the tape that I used on the first speaker. See this stuff here, and I would just do the same thing. I just cut it here and just lay it on. I thought I would try this other size tape just because I had it. So in a way, this one's a little bit experimental too. But you get the idea. You can make a decision yourself if you want to even do this. said, the hardest part of this is separating these two, because you don't want to bend it or crush it. And you don't want to get your finger oils on it. So that one goes there, goes down to there, comes back. So I have to skip one. This is what I was talking about, how you've got to and I'm trying to make it look pretty, so not. I could just whip it off and slap it down. I'm trying to do, trying to make it look somewhat presentable. It's not the most attractive, but you know, some of the best sounding speakers have some of the sketchiest looking wires on them. So. They're looking pretty good. All right. All right, a little bit more here. In there. These little manky edges are my fault, because I have a hard time getting the getting it off of these. All right, so I come down to this other side, and I'll do the same thing. I'll do the same thing on the opposite side that I've done here. There we go. Beautiful. And that's the tweeter wire. And then we can get our ohm meter. All right, so an hour later I find the multimeter. And I'm just going to put it, initially I'm just going to put it here on basically diode check. I'm just looking for continuity. And there you go. Got continuity. You can check it at the wires too. Probably even go here, maybe. And briefly you get it. Alright. That's it for today, guys. Catch you later. Bye.